What is Human Development Index? It's basically an index, it's a composite index which looks into different factors like the status of living, the lifestyle altogether. Unemployment in economics means a state where a person is not having any job or not having any income. So the trade that is carried across the borders in terms of exports and imports is known as foreign trade. Good morning and welcome to the Pre-Reforms of Indian Economy first semester B.Ca, where we're going to talk about the model question paper based on the NEP practice. Now moving further, let's first try to understand that this paper is quite going to be challenging paper, but nevertheless we have a way of writing this paper and scoring the maximum marks. We all know that Pre-Reforms of Indian Economy is a pure theory paper which is going to combine the questions starting from the prehistoric reforms to that of the modern economy. So first let me take you through the pattern. You will definitely have 2 marks question which you have to write 5. So 2 into 5, that will be for 10 marks. Followed by 5-mark questions which you have to write 6. So you will have about 30 marks coming up here, followed by 10-mark question which you have to write 2. So that would be for 20 marks, and that makes the total as 60. So let's please understand the pattern very clearly. You have 2 markers, you have 5 markers and 10 markers. But I'm not going to rule out the possibility that if there might be a change, there can also be 15 marks coming in. This might slightly change to 5, 10 and 15 pattern also. But on a majority, till now we have seen that this is the pattern that has been followed. The 2 markers followed by 5 markers followed by the 10 markers. It's very easy to score here provided you pay complete attention in terms of writing your answers clearly. So let me start with part A, where I'm going to start with the first question to you. But the first question that was given here is, give the meaning of density of population. Now please understand the question very clearly. They have asked you density of population. So what would be the answer? Density of population would be number of people. So first thing is number of people per square centimeter. That is what we are going to talk about, given divided by the total area. So whenever you take a particular city, now let's take Mysore, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, whichever city, the number of people who are living in a particular area divided by the total square feet, total area available, that will give you the density of population. So it will tell us how much the city is crowded or how much the city is free in terms of population. Followed by, we're going to talk about expand HDI. The next question is expand HDI. Now you just have to write the expansion, and if you can just write 1 line about it, it will be great. So we are going to talk about HDI. HDI will stand for Human Development Index. So it stands for Human Development Index. That's the answer for this question. Now, what is Human Development Index? It's basically an index, it's a composite index which looks into different factors like the status of living, the lifestyle altogether, then the happiness quotient factor, the availability of social amenities and other factors. So that contributes to your Human Development Index. Moving on, what is unemployment? Now look at the question itself. It's a very, very generic question. You don't have to think so much and you don't have to reproduce the same textual matter here. You can probably write in your own words, but a sentence should be meaningful in nature. So what is unemployment? Unemployment in economics means a state where a person is not having any job or not having any income. A state where there is no income altogether. So whenever I say unemployment, the person is not actively employed. So he is not getting any active income. So that's why we call it as a state where a person is not employed, no income at all. Followed by, give the meaning of green revolution. We have been studying about this green revolution for a very long time by now. Green revolution actually means that it is the revolution that was actually created through which high yielding variety of seeds were used in order to increase the production. This word, high yielding variety of seeds that were genetically produced in order to increase the production of rice and wheat. So that's what we talk about this green revolution. It helped in the promotion of Indian agriculture in terms of output. Followed by, what is black money? Now, the moment you get a question like this, please do not try to take it on a negative sense. Please do not write the answer as and when you think. But let's try to understand black money from an economic standpoint. So the answer to this is the unaccounted money is called as black money. The unaccounted money that has been not bought into the book of accounts, which is not being paid as a tax, is known as black money. So the unaccounted money is what we will be using here, the word, to say that as black money altogether. Now, followed by, what is foreign trade? Foreign trade means that the trade that is carried overseas across the borders. So I would say please bring in this keyword, across the borders. So the trade that is carried across the borders in terms of exports and imports is known as foreign trade. So these are the key words. These are very, very simple. Please understand that whenever you are writing an answer, they will look in for the keywords. So understand those keywords and then start putting it forward altogether. So across the borders, when we talk about export and import function, that's what we mean by saying that foreign trade. Followed by, when was the Niti Aayog introduced? All of you know this question. Niti Aayog was introduced in the year 2014, but then it came into existence on January 1st, 2015 onwards. The Niti Aayog came into function. 2014 it was planned. January 1st, 2015, the Niti Aayog was brought into system. Niti Aayog means the erstwhile it was called as Planning Commission. The new name of Planning Commission after Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi took over the government in 2014, the name was changed to Niti Aayog. So which is basically about the transformational process of the Planning Commission. Now, this is what we are going to say. So it was formed on the date January 1st, 2015. It was introduced. So this much if you can write, you will definitely score your 2 marks. Now, moving further to the 5 marks question that is very, very relevant for us in terms of scoring. Now, what are the 5 mark questions? Discuss on demographic features of India. Whenever we talk about the demography, that includes a lot of factors like income. It might also include about the living conditions, the geographical conditions, the density, population factors, the kind of rural setup. So you can talk about income, you can talk about age, you can talk about gender, you can talk about the employment. All those kind of factors will be under the demographic factor. Why these things are important for us is that today when we talk about demography of India, it varies from place to place. The demographic features of Karnataka is entirely different from Tamil Nadu, which is entirely different from Andhra Pradesh. So you would see that in certain places the concentration of people is more, opportunities are more, or the income ratios are higher, the age factors are higher, the gender equality, gender inequality, all those factors keep varying as we are talking about. But these are the key points under which you need to talk when we are talking about the important concept called as demographic features. Followed by the magnitude of black money in India. Now, this is a very, very generic question, so you can write on your own. Now, the magnitude of black money in India is several thousand crores. Nobody knows the exact value. So probably what we have heard from the last record is that more than 1 lakh crores is being deposited outside India in the form of black money. But then, since this is being unaccounted money, we don't have an exact statistics to prove and tell people how much black money is left within our country, where it is located. Now, the main factor that you need to bring in is the word called as unaccounted, because of which what happens is that they escape from the income tax purview. All this money gets completely locked up somewhere. Now the economy suffers because of black money. Lot of people are not able to get their share. Many poor people still continue to remain poor because the rich are getting richer by accumulating this black money. So there is no equality of income that can be found if black money continues to persist, continues to grow within this economy. So that's where the magnitude of black money comes into picture. Now, most of the time, black money is a negative word. Why? Because it not only affects the economy, but it also demoralizes the people in terms of their living standards altogether. There are many sections of Indian society where you would see that people are struggling for the basic needs, food, shelter, and clothing. And then there is a section in India which live in the ultra luxurious, ultra high net worth sector altogether. So the bridge between them is very wide. That means the gap is extremely high, and that's one of the reasons why India still struggles to bridge that gap altogether, to bring in the functionality in terms of making the society as a common factor. So black money is definitely a dangerous aspect to the Indian economy. Followed by, write a note on the Gandhian model. This comes under the planning factor. It's very, very important here. Now, the Gandhian model, as we are talking about, the most important thing is the inclusiveness that Gandhiji had spoken about in our system. Gandhiji believed that whenever a model, an economic model is created, you need to give importance to the rural section of our country. You need to give importance to the micro, small, medium industry. You need to give importance to all those cottage industry, and that economic model should be created in such a manner that it creates an inclusive growth section altogether. Whenever I use that word inclusive, that means to say that it is included, it is a part of the system altogether. I don't mean by saying inclusive means that only a particular thing. Whereas when you look into the other models like the Bombay plan was more concentrated about the corporates and bringing in the big companies, whereas Gandhiji was more interested in looking into development aspects from the roots of India. So what he wanted is that every village, every town, every district should be linked to the growth center as far as possible, and every citizen of India should be benefited from the economic growth aspect. So that is why Gandhian model was given a lot of prominence when it comes to the economic planning. Followed by, prove India as a developing country. Now just look into the question for a while. This goes for a 15 marks question. So when we are talking about a 15 mark question, sometimes when you get such a big question, and that too it's a very vague and an open-ended question, you could probably write anything that comes in terms of a positive view to India. Starting from agriculture, then we can talk about infrastructure, then we can talk about services sector, then we can talk about the defense sector, we can talk about the factors of banking services, that is the financial aspect of the country. So like this, you have multiple aspects that can today prove that India is definitely a developing economy in the world. Rather, I would say that it's definitely among the top 5 economies of the world. It is a developed economy. But what is the factor, what's the point here that we need to prove is that how India has significantly improved in each one of the sector. It might be railways, it might be infrastructure, it might be banking, it might be IT services, it might be the defense sector. We have made significant improvement from 1947 till 2023 in terms of production, in terms of exports, in terms of our currency value, in terms of getting a market image, and also making ourselves predominantly known, visible to all the countries in the world. Today, all of us know that the last 10 years, India has made a rapid stride and progress in terms of construction, infrastructure, as well as in exports and agriculture, which has made India definitely get a name of a strong, developed nation altogether. In fact, we have overtaken some of the largest economies like that of Japan, Germany, UK, and we are now the third largest economy in the world, which makes us definitely understand that our GDP ratio also growing at about 6.8 to 7% growth. So all these factors you can put into the answer in order to highlight and prove the factor very clearly that India is definitely a developing nation. Now, since it is a 15 marks question, I would request all the students to make an effort of writing it at least 3 to 4 pages, which means 3 to 4 sides I'm trying to talk about. Please ensure that you write it completely with examples, elaborate your answer, give positive examples, relevant examples, so that you will be able to score more in this 15-mark question. Followed by, give the meaning of poverty and explain the problems of poverty. Now, again, if you look here, this is a very, very generic question. Poverty is something that you have been visualizing, you're being able to understand when we are talking about the Indian economy. Poverty is something that we know about it. Why? Because the amount of suffering that India has gone through right from the time of British till now. So poverty is basically a state, a situation where a human being is not able to meet the basic needs. So not able to meet the basic needs is where you would be able to see that the people are suffering. They're not able to get the necessity factors, and you will also be able to see that the food, shelter, clothing, everything comes under a challenge. These are people who are not able to afford the regular meal. They don't have a clothing facility, they don't have food facility, they don't have any kind of accessible factors altogether. And poverty primarily erupts from the factor called as unemployment. I want you to please pay attention to this particular point called as unemployment. Why? Because majority of the nations tend to go into poverty when there is a large scale unemployment that persists in that country. Now, as per economics, more and more the country starts heading towards unemployment altogether. Automatically, those countries will not be able to survive or sustain the growth factors. Now, let's say, for example, Turkey and Syria, which has recently undergone the amount of huge, disastrous earthquakes. There will be hundreds and thousands of people who would be thrown to disparity in terms of being homeless, jobless, and they have completely lost the belief, the hope in life. Now, what happens to those kind of zones or countries altogether is that there might be a large-scale unemployment, large-scale disparity, by which poverty would take up to a greater heights altogether. So, unemployment is one of the root cause for the poverty altogether. Followed by, you can bring in the points like the government plans, or you can bring in the systems where you are not able to get enough economic aid in terms of supporting people. Secondly, if you're not able to produce, you do not have any supporting factors in terms of production, automatically poverty starts raising up. Now, for example, if a country does not have a rich agriculture, so definitely there will be poverty in terms of food. If a country does not have enough minerals, enough mineral wealth altogether, there would be definitely poverty in terms of production. If a country does not have enough services facility, they will not be able to export more. So like this, you can bring in examples and you will be able to quote it here for this particular answer. Followed by narrate the achievements of economic plans. This starts right from our 5-year planning altogether. From the first 5-year plan to that of the 14th 5-year plan, you can go about and discuss what are all the highlights that the Indian government has achieved in terms of the economic plans altogether. Plus, you can also bring in about the Gandhian models and the other economic models that have been spoken about. But whenever we talk about the economic plans, these are certain things which were designed with the Planning Commission and with the expert panel committee members who had gone further in terms of making it possible in terms of growth. In each and every plan, we ensured that we gave focus to certain sectors of India, starting from agriculture to that of education to that of companies that is in production, manufacturing, then we move towards services sector, then we move towards insurance, then we move towards healthcare. Today we are talking about defense. So each and every economic plan, we have been giving importance to one or the other sector, making it like a sunrise sector to come up for India and make India come onto the bright spot as far as possible. So definitely this question, I would leave it to you in terms of writing your own experience, bringing in the relevant examples, and you can highlight about each and every economic plan. The last one that we're going to talk about here before we wind up is going to be on the composition of foreign trade of India. Yes, we can talk about the exports and the imports philosophy. Whenever we are talking about the exports, how much as that we have gone through in terms of export factor, how much we have gone through in terms of imports. Then we can also talk about the balance of trade, which is very, very important for us. Then we can also talk about balance of payments. That is also a very valid point here. And we can also talk about the open economic system that India has been adopting from the last 10 years. Plus, currently where India is trying to focus upon Make in India and sell it across global, all those factors can be bought under the foreign trade factor altogether. We have got into this foreign trade many years back, but due to the setback that was caused by the British, from the 1980s onwards, we slowly started concentrating on export. By 2004, we became one of the leading exporters in the world in terms of agriculture as well as allied products. Starting with IT and software services, we are one of the leaders in that sector. So all those factors can be highlighted in this, which will help you to score better marks. With this, I come to the end of this particular session. I hope and believe that for your examination standpoint, all these important questions that we have discussed today will be of a great value. You will be able to write well and you will be able to score well in the examination. Please do make a note of the question. Please do read it carefully. Try to understand what is being asked and answer to the question in a relevant manner with correct examples. That will definitely help you to score better. With this, I come to the end of this session. Thank you everybody for joining me today on this wonderful session. I wish all the students the very best in terms of their examination. Thank you once again.